Well, good morning. Welcome to the Coffee Break Podcast. It's another episode. We're going to be talking about business practices, ideas, and strategies. And today, our guest is Geoff Schultz. We're going to have an exciting conversation. My name is Chad Lingefelt with Loc-Doc Security, and we will get right into the conversation right after this.
We got so much to say. We got a podcast to make. We're sipping on lattes, and it's time for a coffee break. Time for a coffee break. Oh, yeah.
Welcome back, Geoff. Thank you very much for taking time out of your schedule to be with us.
Yeah, certainly. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're gonna. It's fun. We talk about this a lot on here, origin stories, and trying to understand how people got connected. And this is a two-person connection point.
Yeah.
My friend Aaron Beaver, mutual friend.
Yeah.
And we were talking one day, and he's like, "You need to have Geoff on the podcast. He's got a lot of good insights on business." So
I hope so.
He
hope
hyped
he's
you up
right.
really good.
Aaron, love you, man.
So hopefully that works out. As part of our podcast, we do 5 rapid-fire questions.
All right.
First thing that comes to your mind, just to get to know you a little better.
All right, I'll try to think fast.
You ready?
Let's do it.
What is the best knock-knock joke that you have?
Oh, man. Okay, knock, knock.
Who's there?
Interrupting cow.
Interrupting
Moo.
cow.
That's a classic one. I do that with my daughter all the time. She's sick, so I get that one from her.
Awesome. See here. If you could be one superhero, which superhero would you be?
Oh, goodness. Probably Superman. I know it might be a little bit of a cop-out, but he just seems like such... his character seems great, like as far as like his integrity.
Yeah.
Like he has a genuine heart and wants to really just like do good, I feel. And so I relate a little bit to like the Clark Kent, kind of converting to Superman, trying to, just help the world out and be a better place, whatever. So yeah.
Cool. That's a good answer. Yeah. All right, number 3. What is the most random thing in your wallet?
Oh man, I've got, my wife made me convert down. So I used to have a big bulky wallet. And She was like, why do you carry so much stuff in your wallet? Like, what do you really need? And, it's always like it's like the frequent buyer card at, Sports Clips or whatever, And she's like, when was the last time you used that? I'm like, I don't know. I always forget it's even in there. So it's not in there anymore, but probably the most cherished thing that I recently got rid of was my original Starbucks gold card member card. I had I use my app all the time. I haven't used that card in forever, but I had it in there for so long, and she just
that's a status symbol.
I know, but it is no longer. So it is now in the dumpster or in the landfill of Charlotte somewhere. If someone wants to go find it for me and get it, I'll pay them.
We've got a buddy that has a wallet, and I'm telling you, it is probably 1.5 inches, 2 inches thick.
Yeah, I wasn't that bad, but
he's got every membership card that's ever been known to
man.
Probably
and back issues too from sitting crooked.
Well, he can't.
You can't sit.
He can't sit on it. He carries it around with him.
It's like a merce almost. Yeah, briefcase.
All right. Here you go. Other than your phone, what is one thing that you never leave your house without?
Oh man. I've worn the same belt since I was in college, and I pretty much always, even my pants don't really need a belt. I just like having the feel of a belt, and so I have it on today. Same belt since I bought as my sophomore year in college in 2006, I believe. 2000. I graduated in 2005, so 2002. So it's a long living belt.
It
17 years.
That needs to go somewhere.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it'll pass down.
You get an endorsement deal for that.
I know. Yeah, it's lasted me a long time. I love it.
That's awesome. All right, number 4. What's a nickname that people actually call you?
The most common one is Geoff. So I spell my name Geoff, and so I get Geoff a lot. Sometimes accidentally by the sales call people, the telemarketers, but I've gotten Geoff a lot, and it's endearing. It doesn't. I receive it and appreciate it.
So as a kid, did you ever do anything and then try to pin it on a sibling or a cousin or anything like that?
Oh man. I don't know, not too much. So I have an older sister. She's 3.5 years older. So the pinning was probably thrown more down onto me. Now I definitely did some sneaking around. Nothing too crazy, but my best friend Luke, who I grew up with, in high school, I had this Toyota, it's '89 Toyota Camry. It was a hand-me-down. My sister had it, then she handed it down to me. And I would never really pin anything, but we would like take it off-roading and stuff, and I kind of kept that pretty hidden from my parents, and and his parents were kind of in on it, like they knew and they didn't care, but I was like, you cannot let my parents know.
You took a Toyota what off-road?
Toyota Camry.
Toyota Camry off-road?
Off-roading. Oh yeah, all the time. Every morning on the way to school, I would drive and I would take it through these cornfields and come out this like abandoned house driveway up onto the main street. It was pretty epic.
That's great.
Yeah, I almost rolled it one time pretty. I was freaked out. I had a couple of my friends in my car, and we were coming on. We were on the side of this hill, and it almost tipped, and it would have been bad news bears. But thankfully, no one ever got injured, and the car transmission did eventually go out. So I'm not sure how that happened. Maybe some of those reverse donuts that I was doing in the cornfields.
Could never imagine why transmission would go out.
So again, kind of not necessarily answering the question, but there's it's kind of I would kind of had some people in on some of the things I was doing and help me kind of keep some secrets. My parents know now, so it's not. The cat's out of the bag, right?
Well, cool. I think that wraps it up. Thank you for participating.
Sure.
Get to know you a little better there, and Toyota Camry. So that's great.
Classic.
So to kind of dive into it, one of the things that I've been kind of a follower on Instagram for a while, seeing a lot of the stuff that you've been doing.
Cool.
And I know you have you wear a couple of different hats.
Mm-hmm.
Really proficient in motion graphic design, which I always admire that skill, because that's something that's really, really cool. And I've seen you do a lot of tutorial videos and really kind of share that craft, which is neat. Some of the things that I definitely want to talk about today is you've got a business that you do creating content for businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to dive into that in a couple of different directions, but kind of set us up a little bit what that means for somebody that's listening or watching that has really no idea what in the world I just said.
Sure, yeah. So we are a video agency. Our name is Hype Kick. We recently rebranded from black and white. We launched at the beginning of 2018. So we've been in existence for a little over a year now, but my business partner Dave and I have been, creating video content, both live action and motion graphics for, combined, close to 2 decades. And so what we do is help businesses raise their brand awareness for not only what they do, but kind of a little bit more about like their personality, so that they can develop relationships with potential customers. And we use video content to do that. And so it might be, hyping up like a promotional, package or something like that for them on social media if they're doing a new release, or it might be creating something for like a leadership meeting that is, or a meeting that that is going to go out, and they're going to use that content as on YouTube or something like that.
Like a conference or something like that.
So promoting that, converting white paper content or blogs or PDFs into video content, because everyone knows everyone's attention span is becoming less and less, and so it's a lot easier to watch a 2-minute video and kind of get the gist of an idea rather than sit down and read a 400, 500 word blog post or like a PDF download. And I've got so we can either convert that content or use video to promote it to get those downloads and those leads for customers.
So quick question, because when I first heard the term motion graphics, I could kind of piece it together, but I didn't really understand exactly what it was until I learned more over the years. So if that's a new term for somebody, what is the consumer version or the consumer definition of that? Sure.
It's actually kind of a running industry joke that how do you answer what you do when your mom or your aunt asks or whatever, like, so what is motion graphics? It's kind of just an industry joke. And the cool thing about the industry as well is that it's kind of like this hodgepodge of honestly whatever you want it to be in some ways. And so the simple answer to it is it's the idea of graphic design, which most people understand. It's like a business card or a letterhead or some sort of poster or promotion, and then you take the elements of that and you put them into motion. So motion graphics, taking graphical elements, putting it in motion. And what's really great about the industry, and as it continues to evolve, people have gone from 2D motion graphics to 3D motion graphics. So that's, incorporating elements that aren't just, feeling flat, but you can completely move your, digital camera around them and create like an environment or a space. Incorporates photo and video and audio, sound design, kind of any kind of digital creative element that you want can be incorporated and composited and put together to create a lot of different feels and tones. So it's very versatile, and it's great because the production you can have very large productions with it, but you also can scale it down quite a bit and create some very basic elements to get started with using those in your marketing. Without kind of like maybe the larger expense of like a full video production. So you can kind of use it as a gateway into video marketing.
So it can, I mean, and obviously it can be a lot of different things, but it's essentially bringing words to life, animating them and making them have energy, I guess, some feeling.
Exactly. Yeah. You can do it, and obviously the tone and the style in which you do that is, kind of limitless, which is really, it makes it fun because it doesn't really get dry creatively. There's always something new to try and figure out.
So for those of you who still are having a hard time kind of putting that together, if you wait to the very end of this video, we have motion graphics of our logo coming together.
Yeah, logo animations is a great simple example of how to take a stagnant still design and then bring it to life in a more engaging way for people.
So with that said, that kind of sets the idea behind. When you approach, trying to tell somebody's story or trying to try to bring that idea to life, what are some things that? Because one of the goals with this podcast is to understand how we can be very tactical. So as a business owner, I'm sitting here going, okay, so I like this idea. Where do I start?
Sure.
Are you going to tell me what my story is? How do I tell you what my story? Like, what does that process look like?
Sure. So a big part of marketing obviously is understanding audience, right? And so who exactly are you talking to and communicating with? What are the problems that those people are facing? And then how is your business a solution for those problems? And how does your brand or your identity or the way that you look and feel connect with them on a more emotional level as well?
Sure.
So there's kind of twofold, right? You have to connect. Most people are making decisions emotionally. They might have some logic that they either start with or that they try to justify an emotional decision with, like, it does make sense because of X, Y, and Z. But really, a lot of those decisions that people are making are on that emotional level. So video content, and storytelling is one of the most effective ways to connect with people emotionally. So being able to start there with a business and say, okay, who are you talking to? What problems are you solving? And, tell me a little bit more about who you're serving and what their life looks like. And, are they married and have 4 kids like I do? Or, are they single and they're like a young business professional and living uptown versus like in the suburbs or whatever it is. And so you kind of get this picture of this person. And a lot of times in marketing, it's called a persona or a target audience profile.
Gotcha.
And so you kind of develop this storyline around a specific person. And when you do that, when you target a specific person, you actually create a story that's going to resonate with a lot of people because you've gotten specific in who you're trying to communicate with.
So the typical way that I think, and I've been there, right? So the typical way that a business person thinks is, hey, I've got you because you're my audience right now, and I'm going to tell you everything about me that I possibly can.
Right.
Which is, it works if you can have a controlled environment with that one person and you can just nail it in. But the fact that they're actually going to remember that and actually be able to apply it is difficult.
Sure.
So what you just described is flipping the tables around and going, okay, let me kind of understand who this is that I'm talking to so that I can give them an answer to a problem that they're having.
Exactly. And I think this is where the heart behind what, content marketing, this term that maybe people have heard, maybe they're executing it, I think can kind of get twisted. Like you were saying, a lot of times people, the heart behind content marketing is that you're outputting a lot of things that are of complete benefit to your audience about the industry that you're in, and you're just educating them. Or maybe it can be more specific about your business and what you do, but it should always be written and communicated through the lens of like, I want to help you with this, and I'm giving you essentially free content that's going to benefit you. And like you said, a lot of times businesses will unfortunately look in the mirror and say, okay, look at myself and like, what do we do? And want to just kind of tell people rather than relate to them and develop that relationship with their audience.
So as part of what you do, is that phase one that you're just kind of sitting there coaching the client on how to think that way? Or is that when you're dealing with people, they've already understood that, like that's how they've already come to the table with that mindset?
Sure, both and, right? You have people that are if we're working with someone that's in, a marketing director at a business or whatever,
Sure.
A lot of those times, typically those people will have the understanding of, of what it looks like to communicate with their target audience and how to make sure that they're building that relationship through their content. But, sometimes maybe you're dealing with a small business owner or someone at an organization who is kind of wearing multiple hats, and marketing is one of the hats, but it's not their main focus.
Sure.
So those people tend to require a little bit more coaching and kind of showing. But the interesting thing is I feel from my perspective and experience is that once you kind of enlighten people to that, most people don't tend to push back on it. It tends to click, and they're like, oh, that does make sense. Yeah, and I think it's even what people think they're doing, but they're not sometimes, you know? So it's really, I feel from our experience, it is less of convincing and more, kind of enlightening or like aligning thoughts or ideas that they've already had and saying, here's some language around that, or here's how to think about it. So
when it comes down to that, because I've been in a lot of these conversations with people trying to figure out how to advertise and basically how to just promote certain things that we do, but not necessarily tell a story to actually engage with people. And so it's a very frustrating conversation when you get into it, and especially when you're trying to look at it from a completely different perspective. Yeah, I can imagine that would be a frustrating point. One of the things that you mentioned before we came in here and sat down, you were talking about how you like the creative aspect, but you really like to utilize some analytics and some understanding of how this is actually working and to craft the content.
Sure.
What does that look like from a practical standpoint for somebody that's trying to develop content?
Yeah. So an iterative approach to marketing is really the best way to do that. And what I mean by that is a lot of times companies may think they need to kind of, if we're going to do something, we've got to go all out from the gate. It's got to be the highest quality, the highest level of production. And, they're looking at a lot of national brands maybe and what they're doing with tons of money basically because they've got it. And it's like, how do we do our version of that, that McDonald's or Coke commercial or whatever, and you end up kind of putting together a cheap version of it.
Sure.
And maybe putting a lot of money into it. And then, you post it on social media one time and it gets,
nothing.
39 views and 1 like or a share by your mom, or something like that. And you're like, awesome, this is going great. So I think what we like to do is start off by saying, okay, let's again first understand your audience, and then kind of what's the MVP approach of marketing? What's the smallest thing that we can do from a video production standpoint to kind of achieve the goal of relating to them, helping them understand a little bit about your, who you are as a company, and then how you solve those problems for them. How are you going to make their life better? And that doesn't have to be done with a $50,000 video production. It could be done with a $50,000 video production, but it doesn't always have to be. And I think going back to your question about the analytics is when you start putting out small but consistent data or a video, you start to acquire some data that will inform those decisions. So, hey, they really connected with, a live action approach rather than motion graphics, or vice versa. They really like the graphic approach, and we were able to make it kind of a little bit more fun and quirky because that matches our brand, which is maybe harder to do unless you start hiring, paid actors and all that for live action. So you can kind of start to understand your audience from the standpoint of what kind of content do they enjoy? Yeah. And then you grow from there. And it's like, okay, that worked. Maybe we should put a little bit more money into either, let's run the ad, let's spend more money on the paid ads towards this, since in this demographic of people that are responding to or engaging with it, or let's increase the production quality in that area. So
a lot of it, if what I'm hearing you say is correct, is just start somewhere and then see what happens. Respond or redirect or whatever. I feel like a lot of times in our small business world, there's just like this paralysis of, I know I need to do something, but I'm not exactly sure what to do, so I'm not going to do anything. Yeah. Or I just keep talking about it for years on years and just never take action. So what you're saying is it doesn't always have to be high budget. Just get something out there, see how it responds, and then adjust accordingly.
Right. And I think a lot of people, even, as a video agency, we're, capturing content on, much higher quality cameras than an iPhone or something like that. But and a lot of times we even had a client inquire with us about creating a lot of like product videos because for the industry that they're in, and because it's like the data shows that when there's a video associated with the product, like a little product review, it's going to outperform products that don't have it, because people can kind of envision what what it looks like for them to have that product. And they're like, would you guys be open to, we've got all these products from all these people, we're kind of like almost like a wholesaler for all these different brands, and we told them that we'll produce these videos and we'll kind of split the budget and all that, and they were wanting to do each video for very, very cheap, and we're like, well, we can't really, like, if we're going to come in and produce those videos, we can't do it for that budget. But honestly, what we think is pull out your iPhone or something, or get a DSLR camera or something and put it on a tripod and just do your product demos, with a white backdrop, and just have someone talk about, the benefits to this product versus another one. And that's all you really need. And so that will, again, get them started. They'll start to get some data around, did this work? But they didn't end up spending $10,000 on a video production. Maybe they spent, $500 on buying their own camera and a little bit of their own time. But now they're more educated than they were before. And again, like you said, the paralysis is so hard. And once you overcome and take that first step with video marketing, be it on your own or with an agency that's helping you kind of know which steps to take first, then it's just, then there's something to build momentum off of, versus, again, just kind of being frozen and stuck and not doing it all, and basically letting your competition do it instead, and kind of getting left in the dust. So.
Well, and I think some of the things that you're talking about, you may not necessarily know what that magic sauce is until
yes.
We have a lot of videos out on YouTube, and I've got one that's closing in on 50,000 views for something. It was very much what you just said. It's sit there with a camera, product review, nothing fancy,
right?
And it's outperforming the ones that we've invested more time and energy in.
Sure.
And it's like you sit there and you try to dissect it, and you can't. Like, it was a product that was relative to people,
right?
And they found it and they're watching it. So
right.
It's that thing. You just have to get it started, get something out there, and then adjust accordingly, because that's interesting. Switching gears real fast, over to just kind of business development. So just talking with you a little bit, I get the sense that you are really into kind of the details behind developing business. And one of the things that you mentioned earlier was, scalability, how you take something and see it grow. Yeah. What drives that, and kind of where are you getting that? What resources are you using to develop that thought process, or to go from there?
Man, where does it come from? That's a great question. So I've always been kind of this dual-brained, kind of left side, right side personality, where I've got the creative side, and I like to create content. I've always kind of viewed myself as an artist, but I've also really always enjoyed structure, and having kind of like knowing like what are the parameters that, and not even in creativity, but a funny story that I always kind of tell people that I think is the best way to maybe understand my personality is back in, I think, first or second grade or something like that. I was playing, when kids are learning to play soccer, and everyone just gravitates to where the ball is, right? Because they want the ball, they want to execute and get the goal and everything. Yep. I was the one kid who would just stand in my position and get frustrated that everyone wasn't doing the role that they were assigned to. It's like, if everyone does the role they're assigned to, we'll be much more effective. And we'll be able to, we'll have defense and offense at the same time. And if that way, if they steal the ball, I'm not the only one trying to defend the whole.
You're analyzing the soccer game on the field.
But it's funny, as a kid, I just was like frustrated. But I can look back and understand, like, this is a little bit of how my brain works, in the sense that I really enjoy structure, because I really wholeheartedly believe that structure breeds freedom. And I want to make the most of just on a complete personal level, I want to make the absolute most of my life. I want to, be it with my family, be it with the skills that I feel like I've been given, the things that I'm passionate about. I really want to be able to, kind of carry that and push that as far as possible, and have as great of an impact on the world as I can, with what I have. And so I feel like the more structure I can put in place, it's going to help me be more effective with the things and steward the things that I have, more efficiently. And again, hopefully that converts into a greater impact then if I was just like trying to do all the things by myself and not trusting that, like, okay, if this is in place and that's in place, it's going to move things, the ball down the field faster, essentially.
Yeah, most definitely. So with that, do you subscribe to any groups, like mentoring groups or peer groups? Is that something that you've ever been involved with, that you're kind of sharing those ideas?
So my wife and I also own a wedding photography business. I think we're going in our 11th or 12th year now. And so we have two other businesses that are up in Raleigh that we have for, I think, 5 years now. We've done a yearly offsite in the mountains where we've kind of gotten together, just, obviously, share some friend time, but also treat it as a business offsite where we have kind of a questionnaire that we answer and then help dissect some of the major issues that we're facing as a business and help each other kind of like, hey, have you ever thought about this? Have you thought about that? When I'm looking at what you're saying here, it seems like this might be an issue that you need to address. And so it's kind of not, it's more informal just with friends that we have. And then, I encourage you, if you have any other business, owner friends, like, it's just such a fun, just go to the mountains for a couple days and enjoy the mountains and enjoy talking business. And you're kind of you're outside of your normal environment. So your mind's a little bit more, I think, open and relaxed. You're not trying to cram it in like in an afternoon or over a weekend or something like that.
So it's an informal group of people, but that are in the similar industry.
Yeah. So another photography couple. And then, Nancy Ray her and Will used to shoot together. Like, I used to photograph weddings with my wife, Cheyenne, but I no longer second shoot with her, and Will no longer second shoots with Nancy. So they're both working on building their photography businesses with associate photographers, to expand their teams. And then, another couple is a husband and wife wedding video team, but they also have a separate business that does commercial video.
Gotcha.
So we're kind of in similar industries, so we can kind of obviously share that. And then Will is part of he does lead basically a business mentor, like a more formal group. So he's gotten into that over the past few years. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my mind right now, but so he meets and does circle ups with business owners once a month, also meets with them individually and helps kind of coach them through what they're facing. So he's obviously a nice friend resource to have in the sense that he has grown into becoming basically a professional coach, business coach. But
so that idea of doing offsites with friends that have businesses for the whole intent of talking business and sharing ideas, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, so how did you come up with? Where did that come from?
Well, some of it is
crazy in a good way.
No, I mean, hey, I've been called worse, right? So you can call me crazy. No, but where did it come from is a good question. Again, I know that's like the origin, right? Where was the origin of that? But some of it is that we are really good friends with them, and the two of them live up in the Raleigh-Durham area, and we're down in Charlotte. So there was like the practicality of like, man, it would be fun to just to like, how do we like continue to grow relationships and get together, but we also, again, are business owners. So anyone who's a business owner knows that your business is always on your mind. Even when you don't want it to be, it's there, and learning to turn it on and off is sometimes a challenge. But at the end of the day, we're friends and we care about each other's lives, and just as a friend. And so a big part of that is, what's the health, how's the health of your business, and what are some goals that you have as a family that your business should be serving, and how can we collectively help you brainstorm to get there.
And then you guys kind of hold each other accountable for that is a very powerful concept, a very powerful idea that, people can take and run with that very easily.
Oh, it's so easy, yeah.
Because you can do that on a small scale.
Yeah.
But
we don't do it extravagantly. I mean, we get an Airbnb cabin for a couple nights and, split the bill. And so it's not really that pricey. And we just enjoy the mountains, hanging out, and then enjoy some business talk, and there's some schedule and structure to that so that we don't, but then there's also all the offline conversations. It's like, hey, when we were talking earlier this afternoon, you said this, and, I was thinking about it. So, while you're out on the porch at night, looking at the stars, you can kind of still be chit-chatting about that. But we've also had some, amazing personal conversations throughout the 5 years as well. And so it really is just like a fun, healthy, getaway that's work and personal all rolled up into one. So
and that's very, that's very very beneficial on a lot of aspects. So That's really cool. So you've got the motion graphics, video content creation.
Yeah.
With the Hype Kick, you've got your wife has a photography business, and then you also wear another hat as a motion graphic designer and content creator for a church here in town.
Correct. Yeah.
So you've got a lot of things on the content creation side, and then you're managing that all with four
kids now.
Four kids.
Yeah. The fourth one was 3 weeks old. So.
So what's the biggest challenge that you're kind of running into with all that right now?
Yeah. Well, aside from sleep, that's definitely a real factor. But I think I'm kind of wired to work, but I think learning. One thing that I've really been focused on and talked about with my supervisor at Elevation is that. The things that I'm learning with my business, I'm bringing to work, and the things that have learned in my work, I'm bringing to my business. And so, obviously, if I was trying to create a company or running a company that's completely removed from content, it might be a little bit more of a stretch. I still think you can do it, but I really kind of have thought of myself. I heard this term, and I don't remember exactly where I heard it from, but an intrapreneur at Elevation. Yep. And so this idea that there are certain people, I think, within organizations, especially as they grow, that it is really healthy for them to have entrepreneurial-minded people inside. They're saying, what if we, how do we view this part of our organization as a little micro business and make it healthy and self-sustaining and growing, and bring some of those, new ideas, to the organization rather than it just kind of being the same old, or this is how we do it, but challenging some of the ideas in a productive way, not in a complaining way. I think that's the balance, right? But yeah, I mean, so many things that I've learned about and read about in trying to help grow my business and figure out what am I going to do with that. I'll be sitting in meetings like, I was just listening to this podcast and they were talking about this, and this fits exactly in line with what we're trying to do and grow here as well at the church. And so I think this idea of, and one of our staff leaders had taught this idea about overlapping circles, and in your life, the more you can take, so everything that you are interested in or do is a different circle kind of inside this bigger circle of like your day or your life. And the more that you can overlap them, essentially the more effective they can be independently and together, because things will, whether it's, relationships that you have overlap with vacations that you take, rather than saying, well, I've got to do this vacation over here, and then I've got to try to build these friendships over here, and then I've got to try to do my work stuff and my business stuff. The more those things overlap, and again, this kind of goes back to where I'm building friendships and building my business at the same time when we do these cabin trips, right? Yep. And we do it without kids, so it's also, like a refreshing for our marriage as well.
Sure.
So I'm kind of hitting three stones all at the same time. Like, we've got the drive up and back, it's just my wife and I. We've got great time with really close friends that we can be vulnerable and honest and like have great conversations with, and we're talking about our business all within a couple of days. And you come back from that feeling like, man, I just hit three birds with one stone with in a couple days. And, then we come back and hopefully we're a little bit more patient with our kids because we've had some time away. And so, it makes me a better parent, I think, as well. And I just think that is the key. And I think a lot of people that are, kind of these serial entrepreneurs where they've got, tons of businesses that they're operating. It's not like they take what they've learned from one and they begin to apply it to the next area of their life. And I think the more that people can try to do that with not even just business, but any area of their life, like I learned this in this, relationship with my wife, and I apply it to how I interact with my, coworkers, I think that's really the approach I'm trying to take.
A constant drive of reapplication.
Continual.
Most successful, as you can see them, successful entrepreneurs have a long line of failed attempts, and that they've learned from that and then applied it to the next one.
Sure.
Well, Geoff, I want to be mindful of your time. This has been awesome. We will have to do this again.
Man,
because
I would love that. It's been so fun. Yeah.
This is just
I feel like we just scratched the surface.
But it's been really awesome. If they want to find out more about you, we've got your contact information below on the screen. But just a quick 30 seconds on how they can get a hold of you.
Sure. Yeah, you can go to hypekickvideo.com. That's where our video site is. My wife's business is Geoff Schultz Photography. If you are looking for family or wedding portraits photography, you can go there and visit her site. I work at Elevation Church, so you can check out what we're doing at elevationchurch.org. And I'm most active on Instagram, which is my name, Geoff Schultz, but the O is a 0 because someone else had that taken. So GE0FF. SCHULTZ on Instagram.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. I appreciate you being here today. For those of you, this is maybe your first time watching or listening. We've got 30 some other episodes available. You can visit our website, Loc-Doc.net/podcast. You can see all of them there. You can find us on all the podcast networks, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you can find podcasts, you can find that. And of course, this is in video format as well. Every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. on Facebook and on our YouTube channel as well. You can search Loc-Doc Security. So all that information is there for you. We ask you to subscribe because you'll get the latest episode every Tuesday as they are released each and every week. And until then, we will see you next Tuesday right here on the Coffee Break Podcast. To learn more about the topics discussed today and to connect with us online to hear all of the episodes available, visit locdoc.net/podcast.
We got so much to say. We got a podcast to make. We're sipping on lattes, and it's time for a coffee break. It's time for a coffee break. Oh, yeah.
The Coffee Break Podcast is brought to you by Loc-Doc Security. We'd love to connect with you online on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Just search LOCDOCINC.